Marcus Chen built his fortune in absolute silence. That's what venture capital required. Quiet deals in soundproof conference rooms, hushed conversations about billions moving between accounts, the muted click of pens signing contracts that changed industries overnight. He'd mastered silence, made it his weapon, his empire. But the silence in his Boston penthouse wasn't the silence of power. It was the silence of grief, and it was killing him. 18 months ago, Marcus had everything. A wife who made him laugh until his ribs hurt. Twin daughters who filled every room with noise, singing, arguing, playing, living. The penthouse echoed with sound, then footsteps racing down hallways, music from the piano, laughter spilling through doorways. Then came the car accident, black ice on Commonwealth Avenue, 3 seconds. That's all it took. The Escalade spun, hit the median, flipped twice. Marcus walked away with a concussion and cracked ribs. His wife Rachel didn't walk away at all. And his daughters, Emma and Lily, 5 years old, sitting in the back seat surrounded by airbags and twisted metal, they survived. But something happened in those 3 seconds of chaos. Trauma to the optic nerves, severe damage, bilateral cortical vision impairment. The doctors used careful language, medical terms that meant one thing: his daughters would never see again. Marcus remembered standing in that hospital hallway, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, listening to a specialist explain that blindness from this type of trauma was permanent, irreversible. The brain's visual processing centers had been damaged beyond repair. "Mr. Chen, I need you to understand. This isn't something that heals. This isn't temporary. Your daughters will need to learn an entirely new way of navigating the world." Marcus nodded, shook the doctor's hand, walked to the bathroom and vomited until nothing remained. The girls spent 6 weeks in pediatric rehabilitation, orientation and mobility training, learning to use white canes, audio-based learning systems, Braille basics, even though at 5 years old they were young for it. Emma cried every night. Lily stopped speaking entirely. They came home to a penthouse Marcus had spent $200,000 retrofitting, tactile pathways throughout, audio labels on everything, every sharp corner padded, every surface mapped and memorized. He'd hired the best specialists money could buy, orientation and mobility instructors from the Perkins School for the Blind, occupational therapists with decades of experience, vision rehabilitation specialists who'd worked with children worldwide. Nothing worked. Emma and Lily sat in their adapted playroom, surrounded by tactile toys and audiobooks, and barely moved. They'd learned the layout of their home through careful training, could navigate from bedroom to bathroom, from playroom to kitchen, but only if someone guided them. Only if someone held their hands. Independent travel, the specialists called it. The goal, the milestone. With time and training, Mr. Chen, children with acquired blindness can achieve remarkable independence, walking through familiar environments without assistance, navigating with canes, using auditory cues to orient themselves. 18 months of training, hundreds of thousands of dollars in therapy. His daughters still wouldn't walk across a room alone. They'd take 3 steps from the couch, panic, freeze, cry for someone to help them. They'd reach for walls, for furniture, for anything solid. Their world had become a maze of terror, and they'd stopped trying to find the way out. Marcus stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse, coffee cold in his hand, watching the sunrise paint the Charles River gold. Behind him, down the long hallway that led to the girls' wing, he heard the morning caregiver's footsteps, the 12th caregiver in 6 months. Section 2, the gallery of failures. Marcus kept files on all of them. Caregiver number 1, Linda Morrison, credentials from Boston Children's Hospital. Experience with blind pediatric patients lasted 9 days. She'd tried to force the girls through mobility drills when they were crying. Emma had a panic attack so severe she stopped eating for 3 days. Marcus fired Linda on the spot. Caregiver number 2, Jennifer Park, gentle, patient, came highly recommended, lasted 2 weeks. She'd grown frustrated with the girls' fear, started letting them sit on the couch all day instead of practicing movement. "They'll walk when they're ready," she'd said. Marcus needed someone who believed they'd actually be ready. Caregiver number 3, Dr. Patricia Winters, PhD in developmental psychology, specialized in childhood trauma. She'd lasted 3 weeks before telling Marcus the girls needed psychiatric intervention beyond her scope. "Mr. Chen, your daughters aren't just blind, they're traumatized. Every time they try to walk, they're reliving the accident. This requires intensive therapy, possibly medication." Marcus had stared at her. His daughters were 6 years old. She wanted to medicate them. She was gone that afternoon. The others blurred together. One stole from the house. Small things, jewelry, cash from drawers. One called a tabloid, sold a story about the tragic Chen twins. Security footage caught her making the call from his own kitchen. One quit via text message after a single day. "I can't do this. They need more help than I can provide." One lasted 6 hours before having a breakdown in his office. "They won't even try," she'd sobbed. "I can't help children who've given up." Each failure carved away another piece of Marcus's hope. He'd built empires from nothing, turned struggling startups into billion-dollar companies, negotiated deals that made Wall Street analysts nervous. But he couldn't fix his own daughters. Money meant nothing. Connections meant nothing. Every specialist, every expert, every highly credentialed professional took his payment and failed. So Marcus did what he always did when human beings disappointed him. He turned to technology. The penthouse now had cameras in every room, 42 cameras total, motion sensors, audio feeds, a security system more sophisticated than most government buildings. He told himself it was safety. The girls were blind. They could fall, hurt themselves, need help. Someone needed to watch. But that wasn't the whole truth. Marcus watched because trust had become impossible, because every caregiver who'd walked through his door had smiled and lied and failed, because watching through screens was easier than watching in person, because seeing his daughters struggle, seeing them cry and reach for their mother who would never come. He couldn't do it anymore. So he watched from his office downtown, 12 monitors mounted on the wall, living room, playroom, bedrooms, kitchen, hallways. He'd review footage during meetings, between calls, late into the night when sleep wouldn't come. He watched his daughters sit motionless on their adapted sofa, white canes resting beside them unused. Watched them touch the tactile paths on the floor but never follow them. Watched them turn their faces toward sounds like flowers seeking sun they'd never see again. And Marcus felt rage at the ice that day, at the driver who'd lost control, at God or fate or whatever force had decided his family deserved this hell. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. Her name was Sarah Okonkwo. She arrived on a Tuesday morning in early December. Snow fell in thick sheets, coating Boston in white silence. Marcus watched through the lobby camera as she entered the building. Medium height, winter coat dusted with snow, a worn leather bag over her shoulder. No expensive briefcase, no designer clothes, no air of credentials. The agency had sent her file the day before. High school diploma, 2 years of community college, incomplete. She'd had to drop out when her mother got sick. 5 years working as a home health aide. Currently studying for her nursing degree at night while working multiple part-time jobs. No specialized training with blind children. No degrees in child development or psychology. No experience with trauma-based disability. Marcus had almost rejected her immediately. His daughters didn't need another warm body. They needed an expert. But the agency woman's voice had stopped him. "Mr. Chen, I know Sarah's not what you usually request, but she's the only person on our roster who didn't say no when we explained the situation. Everyone else read the file and declined. Sarah read it and asked when she could start. So Marcus said, yes. One more try, one more failure waiting to happen." He watched through the penthouse foyer camera as his housekeeper, Mrs. Kim, let Sarah inside. Watched her remove her coat, revealing simple clothes, jeans, a sweater, comfortable, shoes. She carried herself quietly, no nervous energy, no performance of confidence. Mrs. Kim led her down the hallway toward the girls' wing. Marcus pulled up the playroom camera on his phone. His daughters sat on their adapted sofa, exactly where the morning caregiver had left them 20 minutes ago, white canes beside them, hands folded in their laps, two small figures surrounded by expensive equipment they'd never learned to use. The door opened. Mrs. Kim entered, Sarah behind her. "Girls, this is Miss Sarah. She's going to be spending time with you." Emma's face turned toward the sound of Mrs. Kim's voice. Lily didn't move at all. Sarah stepped forward slowly. She didn't approach them directly. Instead, she walked to the chair across from the sofa and sat down. Close enough to be present, far enough to not be threatening. "Hello, Emma." "Hello, Lily." Her voice was soft, clear. No baby talk, no false brightness. "I'm Sarah. I'm going to be here with you for a while." Silence. Sarah didn't fill it with nervous chatter. She just sat. Marcus watched, waiting for her to do something. Start a therapy exercise, try to get them moving, begin the process of proving herself. She did nothing. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Emma's head tilted slightly. Listening, Sarah spoke again. "You don't have to talk to me. That's okay. I'm just going to sit here. Let you get used to me being around." Her voice had something in it Marcus couldn't identify. Not pity, not forced cheerfulness, just steadiness. Lily's fingers moved slightly on her lap, Sarah noticed. "I know this is hard. New people are hard, especially when you can't see their faces. You don't know if they're safe yet." Marcus's hand tightened on his phone. "So we'll take it slow," Sarah continued. "No pressure, no rushing, just being here together." She reached into her bag and pulled out something. Marcus leaned closer to his monitor, a small music player, simple, old-fashioned. She pressed play. Soft piano music filled the room. Chopin, maybe. Something gentle and unhurried. "My grandmother used to play this," Sarah said quietly. "When I was little and scared of things, it helped." Emma's shoulders relaxed slightly. Sarah set the player on the coffee table and leaned back in her chair. She didn't speak again. Just let the music fill the space. Marcus watched this stranger sit with his daughters in complete silence. No agenda, no protocol, no clinical exercises, just presence. After 20 minutes, Emma spoke, her voice tiny, uncertain. "Where are you from?" Sarah's face softened. "Nigeria, originally. Came here when I was 12. You?" "Here, Boston. This is a beautiful city." Silence again, but different now, less heavy. Then Lily, who hadn't spoken to a caregiver in 3 months, whispered, "What's your name again?" "Sarah." "Sarah," Lily repeated, like she was testing the sound. "That's right." Marcus sat back in his office chair. His heart was doing something strange in his chest, something he didn't trust. On the screen, Sarah reached slowly toward the coffee table and picked up one of the tactile toys, a wooden puzzle with raised shapes. She didn't hand it to the girls. She just held it, running her fingers over the pieces. "These are interesting," she said, more to herself than to them. Different shapes, square feels like this, triangle like this. Emma's head turned toward her voice. Sarah continued exploring the toy, describing what her fingers felt, not teaching, not instructing, just sharing. After a moment, Emma reached out her hand. "Can I?" "Of course." Sarah stood slowly, walked the 3 steps to the sofa, placed the toy in Emma's hands. Their fingers touched for a second. Emma didn't pull away. Marcus closed his laptop slowly. He told himself not to hope. Hope was dangerous. Hope had died 11 times before, but something in his chest cracked anyway. That night, reviewing the footage at 2 a.m., Marcus watched Sarah leave the penthouse, watched her step into the elevator, and right before the doors closed, she'd looked up at the camera, almost like she knew he was watching, and her expression held something he couldn't name. Determination. Purpose. Like she'd made a decision about his daughters that didn't require his permission. Marcus didn't sleep that night. He watched 6 hours of footage from Sarah's first day, watched her sit, watched her speak softly, watched his daughters slowly, cautiously begin to respond. And he realized something that terrified him. This woman believed she could help them, not manage them, not maintain them, help them. Marcus had stopped believing that was possible, had accepted the specialist's verdicts, had buried hope alongside his wife. But Sarah Okonkwo, a woman with an incomplete degree and a music player, she believed. And Marcus didn't know if that made her a miracle or just one more person who would break his heart. Sarah arrived every morning at 7:30, always the same time. Marcus tracked it through the lobby cameras. She'd removed her coat, greet Mrs. Kim, walked down the hallway to the girls' wing. No rushing, no hesitation, just steady presence. By the 3rd day, Marcus noticed something. The morning mobility specialist, Dr. Chen, had hired her for 3 sessions per week, $400 an hour, arrived at 9. She'd spend 90 minutes running Emma and Lily through orientation drills, tactile path following, cane techniques, spatial awareness exercises. The girls hated it. Marcus could see the tension in their small bodies, the way they'd stiffen when the specialist's voice got sharp with instruction. But with Sarah, before the specialist arrived, something different happened. Day 3. Marcus pulled up the playroom footage on his office monitors. Sarah sat on the floor with both girls, not on chairs, not maintaining professional distance. On the floor, cross-legged, close enough that her voice wrapped around them. She was singing, not children's songs, not the therapeutic music the audio specialists had prescribed. Something old, something that sounded like it came from deep in her chest. A lullaby, maybe, or a hymn. The words were in another language. Yoruba, Marcus would learn later. Emma and Lily sat motionless, but they were listening. Really listening. Sarah's voice filled the room, warm and unhurried. When she finished, Emma whispered, "What was that?" "A song my grandmother taught me, about finding your way home even when you can't see the path." Lily's fingers moved on her lap. "Sing it again." Sarah did. This time she took Emma's hand gently, placed it on her throat so the girl could feel the vibrations. Emma's face transformed. Not quite a smile, but close. Marcus leaned toward his monitor. After the second verse, Sarah stood slowly. "Want to try something?" The girls stiffened. Here it comes, Marcus thought. The exercise, the drill, the thing that would make them cry. But Sarah did something unexpected. She started humming that same melody, kept humming as she walked slowly across the room, her footsteps deliberately heavy on the hardwood floor. "I'm walking to the window," she said between hums, following my voice, hearing where I am. She reached the window, kept humming. "Now I'm touching the curtain. Feel how the sound changes near the glass." Emma's head turned, tracking her voice. Sarah hummed her way back across the room, stopped beside the girls. Close your eyes. I know you can't see anyway, but close them. Listen to my voice. Tell me where I am. She moved again, humming, steps on wood. Kitchen, Emma said suddenly. You're near the kitchen. Yes, Sarah's voice lit up. You're exactly right. How did you know? Your voice. It got farther, and the floor sounds different there. Marcus sat forward in his chair. Sarah moved again. More humming, more steps. Bookshelf, Lily whispered, her first unprompted words in weeks. Yes, baby, yes, you hear everything, don't you? Lily nodded. For 20 minutes, Sarah walked around that room, humming, letting the girls track her voice. Not therapy, not a clinical exercise, just play, just sound and movement and trust. When the mobility specialist arrived at 9, she found all three of them laughing. Sarah had bumped into a chair deliberately, made an exaggerated oof sound, and both girls had giggled. The specialist's face tightened. Miss Okonkwo, the girls have a scheduled protocol. I know, Sarah said, standing. They're ready for you now. But something had changed. Emma and Lily went through their exercises differently that day, still reluctant, still scared, but there was something new underneath, like Sarah had reminded them that movement could be something other than fear. Marcus watched it all, rewound it, watched again. That night he pulled up Sarah's file, studied it like it held answers. No specialized training, no credentials, nothing that explained why his daughters responded to her when they'd shut down. For everyone else, he found himself watching her more than watching his daughters. The way she moved, unhurried, deliberate, like she had all the time in the world. The way she touched things before handing them to the girls, describing the texture, the weight, the shape. This block is smooth and cold. Wood, I think, heavy in my hand. She was teaching them to trust their other senses, not through drills, but through her own experience, showing them what perception felt like when sight wasn't possible. Marcus didn't understand it, but he couldn't stop watching. Week 2, the mobility specialist called Marcus at his office. Her voice was careful, professional, but something lived underneath it. Mr. Chen, I need to discuss something with you. Marcus's stomach dropped. Here it was, another failure, another person giving up. The girls showed remarkable improvement in today's session, particularly in auditory orientation. Emma tracked moving sounds with 87% accuracy. That's significant progress. Marcus's hand tightened on the phone. What does that mean? It means their brains are processing spatial information through sound much more effectively. Something's changed in how they're engaging with their environment. Is that normal? Pause. With intensive training over months, yes, but we've only been working together for 6 weeks total, and the first month showed minimal progress. This acceleration in the past 2 weeks is unusual. What do you think caused it? Another pause. Longer. I noticed Miss Okonkwo has been doing some unconventional work with them. Music-based movement, vocal tracking games. It's not standard protocol, but the specialist's voice softened. It's working. I'd like to incorporate some of her methods into my sessions, with your permission. Marcus ended the call 10 minutes later, sat in his office, pulled up that morning's footage. Sarah had the girls in the playroom again. She'd moved all the furniture to the edges, creating an open space in the center. I'm going to walk around the room, she told them. When I stop and call your name, point to where you think I am. Just point. Don't worry about being right. She walked slowly, her footsteps clear. Emma? Emma's hand lifted, pointed, close but not quite accurate. Good try. I'm a little to your left. Sarah walked again. Lily. Lily pointed. Dead on. Perfect. You've got me exactly. They did this for 15 minutes. Sarah walking, calling names, the girls pointing, adjusting, learning. Then Sarah said, "Now we switch. You two call to me. I'll point to where I think you are." She covered her eyes with a scarf. "Go ahead. Call my name from anywhere." The girls didn't move at first. They'd barely left the sofa independently in 18 months. "It's okay," Sarah said, eyes covered. "Take your time. Use your canes if you want, or crawl, or just sit there and call, whatever feels safe." Silence, long and heavy. Then Marcus heard it. Movement. Someone. Standing. On the camera, Emma rose slowly from the sofa. She held her white cane, took one step, another, 3 steps from the sofa toward the window. She stopped. "Sarah," Sarah pointed, "you're by the window, near the curtains." Emma's face broke into the first real smile Marcus had seen in a year. Lily stood next, moved more cautiously, 5 steps toward the bookshelf. "Sarah." "Bookshelf, right side." Both girls laughed. Marcus's vision blurred. He wiped his eyes roughly. His daughters were walking, not far, not confidently, but walking, independently, for the first time since the accident. That night, Marcus didn't just watch current footage. He went back, day by day, watched Sarah's arrival, watched her sit in silence that first day, watched her introduce music on day 2, the humming games on day 4, the voice tracking on day 7. She'd been building something, carefully, patiently, a foundation of trust that let his daughters believe movement was safe again. The specialists had tried to force independence. Sarah had simply made moving worth the risk. Marcus opened a new browser window, typed echolocation blind children. Articles flooded the screen. Studies about kids who learned to navigate using sound, click training, vocal mapping, the brain's remarkable ability to process spatial information through hearing. He clicked one. Children with early onset blindness often develop enhanced auditory spatial processing. With proper training, they can achieve mobility independence that rivals or exceeds sighted navigation in familiar environments. Another article, "The key is confidence building through low-stakes practice. Children must learn to trust their remaining senses before they'll risk independent travel." Everything Sarah was doing, the games, the humming, the playfulness, it had science behind it. She probably didn't know the research, probably hadn't read these articles. She just understood something deeper. Fear was the real disability, not blindness, and Sarah was teaching his daughters that the world wasn't as dangerous as they believed. Marcus closed his laptop, sat in darkness. His office felt too big suddenly, too empty. For 18 months he'd hired experts to fix his daughters, specialists to rehabilitate them, professionals to manage their disability. But Sarah wasn't trying to fix them. She was trying to free them. There was a difference. Marcus found himself leaving work early, not every day, but more often. He'd tell his assistant he had appointments. He'd drive home through Boston traffic, park in the underground garage, take the private elevator up, but he wouldn't go inside. He'd stand in the hallway outside his penthouse door, listening. Through the heavy door he could hear Sarah's voice, the girls' laughter, music playing, footsteps and movement. His family was inside, living, healing, becoming something new, and he stood outside, unable to walk through the door. One Thursday afternoon he stood there for 20 minutes, his key card in his hand, his throat tight. The door opened. Mrs. Kim stood there, surprise on her face. "Mr. Chen, I didn't know you were home." Behind her, down the hallway, he heard Emma call out, "Who is it?" Sarah's voice, "I'll check, honey." She appeared behind Mrs. Kim, saw Marcus standing there. Her expression didn't change. No judgment, no surprise, just that same steadiness. "Mr. Chen, I was just—" He couldn't finish the sentence. Sarah stepped into the hallway, let the door close behind her. They stood in the private corridor, alone. "They're doing really well," she said quietly. "I've been watching." The words came out rougher than he intended. "The cameras." "I know. The mobility specialist called, said they're improving." Sarah nodded. "They're remarkable girls. They just needed to remember that." Marcus's jaw tightened. I should have been able to help them myself. I'm their father." "You kept them alive," Sarah said simply. "That's not nothing. After what happened, keeping them safe, keeping yourself together enough to hire help, that took everything you had." Something in his chest cracked. "But they're ready for more now," Sarah continued, "and so are you." "I don't know how to—" His voice broke. "I see her every time I look at them, my wife, and it hurts too much." "I know." Sarah's voice held something that sounded like experience. "Grief makes us hide, makes us watch from far away because close up is too dangerous." Marcus looked at this woman, this stranger who'd walked into his broken family and refused to leave. "Come inside," Sarah said. "They miss you, even if they don't say it." "I don't know what to say to them anymore." "You don't have to say anything. Just be there. That's enough." Marcus stood frozen, 20 feet from his own door, miles from his daughters. Sarah's hand touched his arm, gentle, brief. "Tomorrow, or next week, whenever you're ready, I'll be there to help." She went back inside. The door clicked shut. Marcus stood in the empty hallway. His empire spread across 3 continents, his portfolio worth billions, his name on buildings, and he couldn't walk into his own home. But for the first time in 18 months, he believed he might remember how. Marcus didn't plan to come home early that Wednesday. His calendar was blocked with meetings until 6, but sitting in his downtown office at 2 p.m., reviewing quarterly reports, he couldn't focus. The numbers blurred. His mind kept drifting to the penthouse cameras, to Sarah's voice, to his daughters laughing at something he couldn't hear through speakers. He closed his laptop, told his assistant to reschedule everything, drove home through afternoon traffic with his hands tight on the wheel. The penthouse was quiet when he entered. No music, no voices. Strange for mid-afternoon. Marcus walked down the hallway toward the girls' wing, his footsteps silent on the thick carpet. As he got closer, he heard it, Sarah's voice, soft and encouraging. "Remember, you know this room. You've heard every corner of it. Trust what you know." Marcus stopped outside the playroom door. It was cracked open. He could see inside. His breath stopped. The furniture had been pushed to the edges. The center of the room stood completely open, 15 feet of empty hardwood floor. No obstacles, no safety rails, nothing. And in that empty space stood his daughters, Emma and Lily, both standing upright without support. No hands on furniture, no walls within reach. Just 2 small girls in the center of an open room, white canes held loosely at their sides. Sarah stood on the opposite side of the room, 20 feet away, maybe more. "I'm right here," Sarah said, her voice clear, steady. "Can you hear where I am?" Both girls' faces turned toward her voice, tracking, orienting. "I'm not going anywhere," Sarah continued. "Whenever you're ready, 1 step or 10 steps, however many feels right." Marcus's hand gripped the doorframe. Emma moved first. She lifted her white cane, tapped it once on the floor in front of her, testing. Then she took a step. Her legs shook, but she didn't reach for anything, didn't freeze. Another step, then another. She was walking, independently, using her cane to sweep the space ahead of her, moving toward Sarah's voice like it was a lighthouse in fog. "That's it, Emma." Sarah's voice held tears. "You're doing it, baby. You're walking." Lily followed, more cautious, her cane sweeping wider arcs, but she was moving, each step deliberate, careful, brave. Marcus's phone was in his hand. He didn't remember pulling it up. The security app opened automatically. He watched through the camera what he was already seeing in person, needing the screen to confirm this was real. His daughters, walking independently, crossing open space, following sound, doing what 12 specialists said would take years, what some said might never happen. Marcus's legs gave out. His back hit the wall. He slid down until he sat on the hallway floor, phone clutched in shaking hands. On the screen, Emma reached Sarah first. She walked straight into her arms. "I did it, Sarah, I did it." Sarah caught her, held her tight. "I knew you could. I always knew." Lily arrived seconds later. Sarah gathered both girls against her chest, tears streaming down her face. "You're so strong. Both of you, so incredibly strong." The girls clung to her, crying and laughing at the same time. Marcus pressed both hands against his face. His shoulders shook. 18 months of grief, of failure, of watching his daughters shrink into themselves. It all came pouring out in silent, wrenching sobs. His daughters could walk. His blind daughters were navigating independently, moving through space with confidence he thought they'd lost forever. And a woman making $18 an hour had given them back their lives. The playroom door opened fully. Sarah stood there, the girls behind her. She saw Marcus on the floor, saw his face wet with tears, and her expression softened. "Mr. Chen." He couldn't speak, could barely breathe. Emma's voice tentative. "Daddy." The word hit him like a fist. When was the last time she'd called him that? When was the last time he'd been close enough to hear it? Marcus tried to stand. His legs wouldn't cooperate. Sarah knelt beside him. "Easy, take your time." "How?" His voice came out broken. "How did you—" "The doctors said." "The doctors were wrong." Sarah's voice was gentle but firm. "They saw blindness. I saw fear. Very different problems, very different solutions. I hired specialists, spent hundreds of thousands. You hired people who wanted to train them," Sarah interrupted. "The girls didn't need training. They needed someone to believe they could do hard things, to make trying feel safe instead of terrifying." Marcus looked past her to his daughters. They stood in the hallway, faces turned toward his voice, listening, waiting. "They've been ready for weeks," Sarah said quietly. "They were just waiting for you to see it." The words landed like an accusation, because she was right. He'd been watching through cameras, reviewing footage, tracking progress on screens, but he hadn't actually seen his daughters, hadn't been present for any of it. "I failed them," Marcus whispered. "No." Sarah's voice was firm. "You kept them alive when keeping yourself alive was almost impossible. That's not failure, that's survival. But they're ready for you to do more than survive now." She stood, held out her hand. Marcus took it, let her pull him to his feet. Emma took a tentative step forward. "Daddy, will you say something?" Marcus's throat closed. He looked at his daughters, these brave, remarkable girls who'd learned to navigate darkness while he'd hidden from light. "I'm sorry," his voice cracked. "I'm so sorry I wasn't there, that I was too scared to—" Emma moved forward. 3 steps. 4, walking toward his voice. Lily followed. They crashed into him together. Small bodies, fierce hugs. Marcus dropped to his knees, gathered them into his arms, and finally, let himself be their father again. "You're here now," Emma whispered against his chest. "That's what matters." Lily's fingers touched his face, tracing the tears there. "Don't be sad, Daddy. We can walk now. Sarah taught us." Marcus looked up at Sarah over his daughters' heads. This woman who'd refused to accept impossible, who'd seen potential where everyone else saw permanent limitation. "Thank you," he said. The words were completely inadequate. "Thank you for not giving up on them." Sarah's smile was soft. "I didn't do anything special, Mr. Chen. I just reminded them who they've always been." 3 months later, Marcus sat in his penthouse living room watching his daughters play. Actually play, running between rooms, following each other's voices, laughing loud enough to wake neighbors 2 floors down. Sarah sat beside him on the couch. Not the hired help anymore, something closer to family. She'd moved into the guest suite, became part of their daily rhythm. Emma and Lily still had hard days, still got scared sometimes, but they were navigating their world with confidence that grew stronger every week, and Marcus was there for it. He'd restructured everything, his work schedule, his priorities, his life. He came home by 4 every day, had dinner with his daughters, tucked them in at night, learned to be present instead of productive. "I talked to the Perkins School today," Sarah said. "They want to interview the girls, study their progress. They've never seen auditory spatial development happen this fast in acquired blindness cases." Marcus shook his head slowly. 18 months of the best specialists money could buy. "And you accomplished more in 3 months. "Because I wasn't trying to fix them." Sarah looked at him. "I was just trying to love them." The words hung in the air, truth in its simplest form. Emma ran into the room, Lily right behind her. "Daddy, come play with us." Marcus stood, let his daughters take his hands, let them lead him down the hallway, trusting their navigation more than his sight. And somewhere above them, he imagined Rachel watching, finally at peace, because their daughters weren't just surviving anymore. They were flying. Later that night, after the girls were asleep, Marcus stood at the windows overlooking Boston. The city spread below him like scattered stars. He pulled up his phone, looked at the security app he'd used to watch his family from a distance for 18 months. Then he deleted it. He didn't need cameras anymore, didn't need to watch from far away, because he'd finally learned what Sarah had known all along. True wealth wasn't what you built. It was who you showed up for, who you believed in when they stopped believing in themselves, who you loved even when, especially when, the world said they were broken. His daughters weren't broken, they just needed someone brave enough to see them clearly. And Marcus had needed the same thing. Sarah found him standing there, stood beside him in comfortable silence. "Thank you," he said again, "for teaching me how to be their father again. You always were, you just forgot for a little while." Marcus nodded, looked out at the city. "She would have liked you, Rachel. She would have loved what you did for them." "I think she sent me," Sarah said quietly. "Some things are too important to leave to chance." Maybe she was right. Maybe grace came in unexpected forms. A woman with an incomplete degree and a grandmother's hymn. Someone who saw a possibility where experts saw limits. Someone who loved when everyone else had given up. Marcus turned from the window, walked toward his daughter's room, opened the door quietly, watched them sleep, peaceful, brave, whole, his girls, his miracles, not because they'd been fixed, because they'd been seen.